Welcome, Cow Horse, Full Contact by Ben Self, with host Chris Dawson and Russell Dilday.
Cow Horse, Full Contact is a view into the industry from our eyes, seeing some of the people that we've seen and grown up with, and getting to hear some of the stories we've loved our whole cow horse lives and would like to share with you. And along the way, we might come up with a little bit of information that helps you on your journey in the cow horse. And today, we've got Ron Ralls that we are going to interview. He is a two-time world's greatest horseman and the only man in the entire world to win $100,000 on a bridle horse at one show.
So, Chris Dawson here. We're here with Russell Dilday, me and Russell, sitting here in the office at Carol Rose's ranch with the one and only Ron Ralls.
The legend.
The legend.
Batman stand-in. That's how he got started, you know.
Really?
Yeah, he was a stunt double for the bat suit. That's they poured a stomach on him and used that as the mold
I could
for
totally.
the bat
I
suit.
didn't know the story, but I have seen. I can totally. It's very relatable.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's where it all started.
That's where it all started. And he made enough money on that to start training.
That only lasted a couple of years. I went through it right away.
Oh, that's awesome. So I say we just dive right in here. I want to hear about childhood a little bit. See what, because you're a man of many brothers and sisters, correct? Many.
They're still showing up.
They're still we're still finding them.
Found a new one 2 years ago.
Same age as you, right?
Hey, no one's going to throw no stones. I got a brother named Russell that we found not that long ago. So,
Really?
yeah.
That's outstanding. You California guys. It's California families.
Hey, we may be related. So how many brothers and sisters do you have, Ron?
I'd have to count them.
Never mind. A lot.
How
Over
many,
a dozen.
how many did you grow up with?
There must be 11 or 12 of them.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, there's 11 or 12, I think.
All right. So where at? Where did we grow up? California, someplace. Wilderness?
California. Some in Bakersfield, some east of Bakersfield, north of Tehachapi, between Tehachapi and Lake Isabella. Mm-hmm. Walker Basin, Caliente.
So grew up with horses on the ranch, right? Using them?
Yep.
Cowboying every day?
Yep.
Spending most of your time in the saddle wearing out jeans?
Well, when we weren't doing that, my dad was also a fence contractor, and we were doing that.
Uh-huh. So building fence,
Maybe
cowboying.
that's why he had so many kids. He had his own workforce.
Yeah. It was needed.
Right.
It was planned.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at what point did the horse training? What about the horse training? Where did we get? What made us want to make them horses better?
Well, at the time I was the youngest boy. Not now, but then I was. I couldn't whip any of my brothers. The only way I could beat them is try to ride better horses. So I always had that in my mind to make better horses than them, because they really didn't care. They just didn't want to walk. So anyways, we went through a few years of drought there. I had my own cows. My dad had his cows, and somebody was going to have to sell some cows. And I had decided I was going to go over to Santa Ynez and see Van.
Uh-huh.
He had his clinic there at Monty Roberts and Patch Roberts there at Flag Is Up. So I scraped enough money to get gas to go over there. I was just going over there and visit with him for the weekend. And I met Monty Roberts while I was there, and he told me, he said, I got a couple of 3-year-olds. If you'll take them home and ride them on a ranch for 6 months, bring them back, I'll pay you to ride them. So I thought that was good, because I was broke all the time anyway, extra money. So I did that. And then I took him back and rode him for him, and he said, if you will move over here, I'll set you up a barn. I'll get you customers. I'll set everything up for you. So I thought about it for about 20 minutes and decided that's what I needed to do. So I went home and talked to my dad about it, and he said, yeah, that'd be good. So I was back over there within a week before he changed his mind on me.
Right.
And him and Pat did exactly what they said they'd do. They gave me horses to ride, got outside horses for me, and it just
How old were you then, Ron, you think?
28, 29.
So you had been training at home before
Just
that?
ranch horses, just my own horses, you know.
No outside ones before that?
Not really.
Not really.
Now, did you have what was the family situation there? Were you married? Did you guys have Philip yet? I mean, where were you there?
No, I wasn't married. I had been married, and I don't know, she got to the point where she was angered by the sight of me, so that didn't work. So I was single at the time.
Uh-huh.
Then I ended up later on marrying Philip's mom and whatever, you know.
Right. So you go to work for Monty Roberts, training horses, professionally training horses, but you really haven't been, as I recall from hearing some of these stories before, you haven't been to a horse show yet.
I didn't even know there was horse shows.
No kidding.
And a lead was something you hooked on the halter to get your horse out of the corral to the saddle house. Where I grew up, they better be in a right leader. They're going to fall over because it's pretty steep. So I had no clue about that stuff.
Right. So at what point did we go to the first horse show? Were you working for Monty there when you went to the first horse show?
Yeah, basically my first horse show, I might have went to one little backyard deal, but really my first horse show was the Snaffle Bit Futurity.
Well, aim high. I like it.
Well, that's what I thought. And it says that interview thing I did that time, you know.
Uh-huh.
He made me... One day he says, I need you to get in your truck, go to Reno. Now, keep in mind, I ain't been 2 hours off that ranch my whole life. And I said, what for? He says, I want you to go watch the Snaffle Bit Futurity. I said, Snaffle Bit what? I didn't know they had that stuff. He said, no, the final is going to be the weekend. I want you to go up there because that's what we're going to do, and that's where you're going next year. So I went up there, and I watched the finals, and it looked relatively easy. Yeah. I thought, well,
no big deal.
This is not going to be a problem at all. So, as it turns out, I was way off.
So we show up the first one the next year after you've watched it. Who won? You remember who won when you watched it?
I can't remember. I don't remember. I honest to God don't. I should, but I don't remember. It was in 80. It was 84, I guess. 83 or 84.
That have been Carl Gould?
No, Carl won it in Vegas.
Oh,
Him
okay.
and Kathy.
Okay. Gotcha. So anyway, we go
Early
watch
80s.
Early 80s. We go, well, yeah, about the time I was, they were changing my diapers back then in those days.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
Hey, I was almost in high school.
You were? Well, there you go. Yeah. All right. So first horse show, we roll in there the next year. You've watched it once, and now we're kicking for the fences. We're going to roll in here, and
I got 4 of them. I'm ready.
we're going to the Snaffle Bit Futurity
yeah.
with 4 horses.
Yeah.
First year.
First year.
Pow.
Any pre-fraternities?
No, they didn't have that back then.
That's what I thought.
Rocking and rolling with 4 the first trip. All right. Walk us through it a little bit. Herd work first, rein work, and then fence work, huh?
Well, the herd work, I actually had one little black mare that was pretty good. I didn't realize when I went there's a difference between showing and training. I didn't know, and there is, I think, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, huge.
Oh,
There's a big difference.
Huge.
I didn't know that. But I had one mare that was actually pretty nice. I mean, they all had bad spots because I trained them, but I got through the herd work decent, didn't embarrass myself too bad. I still hold the record in the rein work, though, for the fastest rein work in history.
I've tried you on there. I mean,
This little black mare was double. She was running bred on both sides,
oh, geez.
and she was very quick. And I was very tight when I rode in there and realized I was by myself. And I'm pretty sure I still hold the record for the fastest rein work at the Snaffle Bit Futurity.
I like it. I knew you were my hero for a reason.
You're not in Kansas now, Dorothy.
So, anyway, it went from that to worse. And like I said, I hadn't been more than 2 hours off the ranch my whole life. So that 7-hour trip from Reno to Santa Ynez seemed like it took 4 days. So I drove home from there, and I beat myself up all the way home for about the next 10 days. And I made myself a deal on the way home that the next year when I went back, I would be, and there was no limited stuff back then, none of that. I made myself a deal that next year I will be in the open or in the finals.
Uh-huh.
So I went back and I had some 2-year-olds that I'd already had going, and I worked hard on them. I ended up, I guess, only going with 2 that year. and I made a finals on one of them. So
That's fast improvement.
well, I don't know. Maybe the big guys weren't there that year. I can't remember.
So after making those finals, did you start feeling like, hey, this is something that I can,
Well,
obviously you thought you could do it at first, but then you kind of realized how hard it was.
Well, it gave me some encouragement, but I still knew I had a long, hard road ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't much sleeping took place at my house ever.
Still not the way I...
Well, more now than then, but it was... and I really didn't... Monty tried to help me as much as he could, but he was gone a lot. He was busy with the thoroughbreds down at the track and stuff, so he would come in there and spend 15, 30 minutes with it. He spent as much time with me as he could. He'd show me something, tell me to work on it, then he'd come back 2 weeks later. So I was kind of just winging it there, and then a few years went by, and I just accidentally got acquainted with Tommy Shelley, and that was a turning point for me, because he, for no particular reason, he just took me under his wing and helped me, a lot.
Who was dominant at the time when those first couple of years you went? Who was dominant showing at that time?
Well, Stan Fonson was still showing. He was doing good. Smokey was there. Teddy was just getting going good.
Just starting.
Greg Ward was still whooping their butt all the time.
Ingersoll
was still doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those guys I thought were ancient now I'm older than they were when I started.
Funny how it goes, ain't it?
Yeah.
So talk to us a little about the process of getting to where you felt at home and felt comfortable. What made you just feel like you settled in there at them horse shows? Like, hey, I belong here. I can hang with any of these guys. These guys have been my heroes, but I can hang right with these old farts and this and that. When did you get that?
Well, I don't know that I ever got that much confidence about who I was in that show pen, but after I made the finals there 2 or 3 years, then I started feeling like I belonged there,
Mm-hmm.
Still was a struggle to beat them guys, keeping in mind that like I said, I didn't move off the ranch till I was 28, 29 years old. Grew up there in the mountains, so not even used to being around people. And so I always felt self-conscious when I'd ride in that pen, just because, like Philip, he grew up showing horses.
Mm-hmm.
And he just got ice water in his veins, and it's just a normal deal for him. I don't know that I ever got that. Does that make sense to you? I don't know that I ever felt that comfortable in that
show pen.
Yeah.
What was the biggest change for you coming from the ranch? And then after you went home that first year and said, hey, I'm going to get in the finals, I did not like how it went this year, even though I thought it was going to be easy. It was terrible. What did you go home and change the most? And then, again, what did you change the most when you run into Tommy Shelley?
Well, when I went home, I didn't really change much of anything. I just tried to get what I was doing more solid, and I had realized in that show pen, it's like I said, is completely different than training the horse. I just worked on trying to just settle down, just, not be so right now about everything. Like I said, I won the fastest rein work in history, so I just needed to just really work on
slowing down,
slow everything down. It's not happen. Don't need to happen that fast. Just
did it change your view on that when you're showing, you only get 3 chances to make 3 stops, and they have to all 3
absolutely
be good stops, rather than at home when you get to go 15 times and think, hey, that was a good one.
Yeah, no, it was like, let's make this run down under control, get to that stopping spot in a manner that we can get to the ground decent. Before it was just like a rocket,
Yeah.
I had not that I trained him that way, it's just I was so tight, so nervous, so tight.
And what did Tommy Shelley change in you later the most?
Wait, slow down. And then he showed me a lot about that horse's hind leg, getting to the ground, pivot on that outside hind leg, spread them hocks, let the cow pull them through there instead of hustling them through there. Just more how to train them to where those horses had balance in their body.
Yep.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically,
Letting them do it.
Yeah, and I mean, he made me train them to where to put their feet, but slow everything down. And like I said, he showed me, you know, that drill that I do on the outside leg, and they put their head down across. Monty had me making them do it on their inside foot, which makes them reach at a cow.
Right.
And Tommy changed that to put it on the outside foot, which was huge for me as far as how your horses get through the turn.
You think a lot of that slowing down was just to allow them and you both to kind of mentally get hooked in there?
Yeah.
And try and get a hold of that brain a little more and not necessarily just think so much about the physical manipulation of moving those feet here and there?
Yeah. And something coming from the ranch, like my dad, I had a world of respect for him. Never had a cross word with him, worked with him till I was 28 every day. But he was pretty much no tolerance, and we had a job to do. And so it was get there any way you could get there, because one mistake you could cost yourself, because that country is just straight up and down. One mistake, you cost yourself a whole week's worth of gathering. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Spill a bunch of cattle and they're gone. So I think part of that was he was no tolerance about mistakes. And you got from point A to point B any way you could, but you better be there and get them cattle stopped, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Now, he was a whole different thing. Like, we run 3 different irons in common. So when we branded calves, we had to mother up every pair. We just put them in the corner of a field somewhere, and you'd just start mothering pairs up and driving them out. That part of it, he was slow and meticulous, but I'm talking about the rest of it. And I think that's where I got some, other than my nerves, it was just don't be late, be there, you know. Mm-hmm. And that didn't work too good in the show pen all the time.
It's hard to sort when you start training.
It
can't. Seems so, it's hard to, the mentality of pairing cows and the mentality of getting ahead of cattle. When you're training and showing, you tried to do the get ahead of cattle mentality, and you'd be so much better off with the pair sorting. But you can't figure that out right off.
In the herd work, it took me forever to figure this out, and I've slapped myself every day since then. If I would have approached the actual cutting of a cow like you're pairing up, or like you're sorting off some strays or fat cattle, you got 300 head of cows there. If I would have approached the cutting part of it, actual cutting a cow part, like bringing something from the back of this big herd of cows through all these other cows and out,
you'd have been miles
I would have
ahead.
not made so many mistakes. But it took me years to figure out it's the same thing.
Felt like you got that clock ticking on you, and you got to get that cow
Yeah,
out and
it's
get
just
you cutting. Whereas when you're cutting a set of pairs out, it's such a delicate, because you're trying not to split that pair and just ease.
Yep.
Yeah.
But if I'd approached the horse show, the cutting part of the horse show, that way, I'd have been light years ahead.
Yeah.
But being a slow study took me a while.
I get a kick out of the ranch guys that they want to talk horse training and this and that, and I'll be out there if I'm doing something out on the ranch with some of them guys. I usually come home and implement a lot more of what they're doing than what they need to implement of what I've been doing. I'll promise you. So yeah, just keeping it all real job oriented is that's something. So,
how about Ronnie? How I kind of felt the same way, raised on a ranch and not knowing that the cow horse existed. When the cow horse came from the ranch, how do you think it got away? How is it that you didn't know about it till you met Monty?
I don't know. Like I said, we didn't get out much. It was just work, and we didn't get out much. And my dad always liked to ride a good horse. I mean, he worked. He had some pride in, like, when he finished a horse, had one in the bridle, one of his finished horses. I mean, he took a lot of pride in it, and I got that from him to try to get these horses better. But I don't know how it got away from because that's where it all started anyways.
Right.
But I didn't get that part of it. I don't know how that.
We gravitate to rodeo for some reason because of the speed, I guess, huh? What about not being off the ranch much, and that first year you go up there and show, and you're in Reno. How about that nightlife?
Well,
were you so nervous you didn't go?
No, I didn't go. Like, no, I did not participate. I did not. I can honestly say I did not.
Took a few years to find some of them establishments, didn't it?
Well, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
And about when I started, it's kind of from the stories I heard before I started. It was quite a party every night. Back in the day when Les Vogt was going strong and all those guys, I think it was a real party every night. And I think when I started, they had kind of I think those guys, a lot of them had started treating it more like a business. And that kind of, it's still there. It was still there, but not, I think, to the degree that I'd heard the stories.
From the beginning, yeah, where it was more of a get-together.
Yes.
And now about the time you come along, it's starting to be a viable income.
Yes, they're starting to treat it more like a business, I think.
Yep, I see.
It's kind of like it seems like it just kind of stepping stone down each generation. I mean, like, I don't know, it seems like my generation was probably the first one that they really were kind of looking down on us for some of our questionable choices.
Yeah.
Where it was just kind of the normal.
I
just had heard stories about you guys, so I was like, yeah, boy, that's what I want to do.
What could go wrong here?
Right.
What could go wrong? This will be good. I'm a natural at most of this.
It don't fly that good anymore.
No. So one thing that I'm real interested in, Ron, because of my background, I wasn't on my own, and I certainly didn't have a family to deal with. So I want to know about the tribulations of raising a young family and trying to make a living training horses, because we all know how turbulent, and tumultuous that can be, and how to balance that out, and how how many times it goes through your head that, you know what, I need to go back to the ranch and run cows and do something where I can make my steady check, or I don't know that much, Well, what I can do something else. I can make more money doing something else, and I got this family to feed. How do you reconcile that?
Well, for me, going home, I could have went home, but going home for me was not an option. I'm not going back. If I was ever going to go back, it would only, the only terms I could have done it on is if I went and did the horse training deal and was successful. Okay, I've done it. I missed my ranch life. I'm going to go home. But going back any time before that was just, I guess it's the way I was raised. It just was not an option. I'm not going to go home. I'm staying. And yeah, it was tight. It was hard. It was hard. But it was also doable. It's just, you get a little piece of it at a horse show, and just enough to make you go home and incentive, keep trying. You're going to get it. Keep trying. You just getting just enough of it that make you want to go, stay with it.
Right.
So, but going home for me was not an option. I could have, but I would have never been happy with myself if I'd have done that.
Yeah.
You would always wonder.
Sure. Now, so what about, going into the Hall of Fame with all these guys, you've been around them and watched them, and then you get the phone call. Talk me through that day when you get the phone call that you're going in the Hall of Fame.
Well, Smokey's the one that I guess that's his deal, but honestly, that was something that, I knew they obviously had that, but it was something I never dreamed, even at that point in time, that I would ever go there. But he told me that, and it's like, slap me or something, because this, you're just pulling my leg, right? It just,
well, you're so darn humble to be around, and asking you about when you got comfortable. I almost got the impression that you still aren't 100% comfortable that you even belong there. And dadgum, you've been such a hero and a mentor to so many of us.
Well,
and like I say, nobody's more deserving to be in that Hall of Fame than you. And like I say, you're sitting here trying to kick yourself that you're even in it.
Well, I'm not really, but it's just unbelievable to me, because I never figured I never figured that's where I always joke with people. They talk about being in the Hall of Fame. I just tell them, yeah, that's what they do when you get old. They don't know what else to do with you.
Yeah.
But
keep you around.
It just was pretty unbelievable and like unbelievable. Still is to me.
Yeah.
Probably too, Ronnie, when you're constantly trying to get better, you have big wins, like you won the biggest bridle class that ever was, 100,001 check, but you still see your failings, whereas other people see your wins. You know, and does it make you, even though you win, you're thinking of the things you could have done better.
Absolutely.
And it makes you I'm not done yet. I can't go home to the ranch yet. I haven't done what I should do yet.
Yeah, and then there's another factor came in here, and it's not anybody's problem but my own, but it's the issues that the issues that I have with my back in the last 7-8 years it's just killed my. I'm going to be honest. You've watched it. Both of you've watched it. Mm-hmm. It's just killed my ability.
Performance.
There's a spot going down the fence in that turn where I'm literally like paralyzed. The pain is, and I'm just floating on that horse like I could come off. Mm-hmm. And it causes bad habits like grabbing with your feet and just survival stuff.
Sure.
And it has terribly affected what I can do in the show pen. Mm-hmm. And it's going down the fence it all hurts, but going down the fence after about 4 trips down the fence, I'm
enough.
I can't. If you've never experienced it, you can't explain it. And that's been very challenging.
Struggle. So you have to start finding other ways to get to keep making a living, for one, because and you feel like you're not going to go win every time, so you start branching out to. I know you've gone out to the barrel racing, and which to me is exactly our event fits into the barrel racing so well. Yeah. How broke you had your horses. If those barrel horses are that broke, no wasted movement. They can go right to the barrel, make the turns they need, and not just be climbing all over the place. How has that affected you, being able to go do it?
Well, it's like I'm trying to make myself last longer now, so I've gotten rid of a lot of horses. So I can hopefully get another 5 years. Mm-hmm. So by doing the barrel clinics, it supplements my income where I can ride fewer horses. Setting in a judge's chair at the horse show is just not an option for me. It's never going to happen. So I'm never going to rely on that for extra income. It's never, ever going to happen because I don't think I could stay focused that long anyway. So doing these barrel clinics is supplemented my income, and all that happened. It wasn't a planned thing. It just happened by accident.
Right.
So you've doing the barrel clinics. You've had to. I know you've helped a lot of non-pros in the past, also, but you're self-proclaimed kind of a quiet sort of fella. Don't spend a lot of time talking, and now you're making a fair chunk of your living teaching people and having to talk to them and everything. What's that transition been like from communicating with your horses all day to doing more communicating with people and having to use your words?
Actually, it's that part of it's been really easy because over the years I've given so many lessons, like cow horse lessons, and back some long time ago did a lot of cow horse clinics too. But I've given so many private lessons, cow horse lessons at home. I've just learned to. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna put it out there. You know, it's that part of it. After the first one or two, and it was received well, everybody got better. That part of it was easy. The part about doing the barrel clinics that's hard is you've got to diagnose the problem, come up with a solution very quick, because you don't have their one-day clinics, 12 riders. I won't do more than 12 because you can't spend enough time. But you got to come up. That's the part that mentally makes you.
And then what about being able to diagnose a problem, come up with a solution, and then having to fit it to that rider? Because not all the riders are.
That's the hard part.
Yep.
Some of the riders are more advanced. Some of them have better horses, and they just pick up what you're laying down real quick. Some of them that aren't mounted real good at all, real unbroke horses, maybe there's some of them riders that are in the beginning stages and they don't really ride that well. So that's the part that gets hard, is to get results on those riders.
Do you find that there's a lot of parallels there between, going back to when you were training more colts and stuff, to where those horses, each horse would take a little different, direction. Like one you'd have to get into a little harder than others, and others you had to pet on them a little more. And do you find that with the people, and are you able to adjust, and identify it as fast with the people who can take the more pressure, who requires it, and who needs to be a little more reassured? Do you find yourself identifying those people as fast as you did with the horses?
Yes.
Yep.
You have to, because, and it's no different giving lessons at home. I don't think anybody, it would be a very small percentage of people that can learn when you're being hard on them, when you're really bringing the pressure to them. They get frustrated, they get nervous. So it's like, I try to treat all of them as equals and then adjust the information and how I give it to them. But none of it is, it's all soft.
What about, Ron, and I find this is tough. You've spent so much time riding and training horses. And like you said, you only got one day, and you're trying to teach those people a point. You're trying to simplify everything you see. How have you been able to break it down? Because if you give them too much information, it does no good. No. How do you break it down?
It's really, to me, the barrel racing is not easy when you start putting the speed on it, but the mechanics of barrel racing is simple. It's all straight lines. Everybody thinks, not everybody, but the general consensus, I think, on a lot of people learning to run the barrel pattern is they think round. And to me, the mechanics of it's no different. I don't care what kind of horse you're training, whether it's a cow horse, a cutter, a barrel horse, doesn't matter what kind of horse. That horse is going to be a better horse if you can train him to where he keeps all four corners under him at all times. The only way to do that is straight lines. So, like, that's how I keep it. That's how I break it down and make it simple. I've got a diagram that they look at. I've got a run or two that I make them look at. But it's, except for the approach to the first barrel, which is a slight arc, it's straight in, straight across, square the finish. No different than riding past a cow down the fence. If you start pulling their head in there as you go by, you're going to lose the rib and everything to the outside. You're going to lose all four corners. It's the same thing. The turn is different because there's a moment, I believe, going down the fence when you turn that cow where there's just a split second there where there's no forward motion. But in the barrel deal, you cannot ever lose forward motion if you want to beat the clock.
Because the barrel doesn't go away from you, whereas the cow does, yeah.
But if you lose forward motion anywhere, like being a second off the leader in the barrel race is a lot.
Yes.
If you think about how long it takes a second to go by, it's nothing. But if you're a second or second half off the leader in the barrel racing deal,
might as well be a half hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you cannot lose forward motion ever, but it's the thing. Well, the way I keep it simple is it's straight in, straight across, square the finish.
So would you say the most common, in your opinion, misconception in the barrel racing, especially for beginning barrel racers, is that they're trying to wrap around a barrel?
Absolutely.
That's
and the more they bend and the closer they get to that barrel, the shorter that horse's stride gets. Then they're just kind of pinching their way around that barrel. They're traveling a less distance than I'm going to make them go, but they're so slow because their stride is so tight, so choppy, bending around that barrel. And then you have that stepping off problem because the rib is never underneath them.
And their hips got to go around the barrel because they're pulling their head to it.
And they lose their hindquarters. So actually, to convey my message is really simple. I mean, anybody can understand it. The mechanics of barrel racing is simple. What makes it difficult is putting the speed on it.
Yep. A lot of things come apart with speed.
Yeah. Especially if they're not very broke.
Or your first reining pattern.
Exactly.
When in doubt, go for that speed bonus.
Yeah.
So I know that we've talked a little bit about, watching cows and things of that nature and getting a handle on our brains. Because I think me and you are a little bit the same as far as we have a little, I don't know, probably could have been diagnosed a little ADD.
You think?
That's a common scenario.
So is there and I think a lot of horse trainers kind of fit into that. For whatever reason, I think it's because we're unemployable. I
Maybe
think that's
only 80%.
right. And so, like, what do you do there? I mean, do you do anything consciously to try and get yourself focused down, like mindfulness habits? I mean, it's kind of the new buzzword around sports psychology.
Well, like watching a herd of cows, you would be shocked if you knew how many places I went in my mind in a 20-minute settle period. I can be watching those cows and I'm doing something over here, but I don't know what that is.
Looking at it.
I think you said, what'd you call it? ADD?
Right, yeah, no. Attention deficit. Attention deficit.
The only way I can do it is I just got to keep thinking, identifying black cow with,
Right. Do you run into that? I mean, in other events, though. I mean, for the rein work, will you feel yourself drifting off, getting ready for rein work, fence work, things of that nature?
Not so much as the herd work.
Yeah. But we don't have the 20 minutes just sitting still either. We kind of focus on your horse while you're prepping him. Mm-hmm. Do you find yourself teaching anything to your students as far as addressing mindfulness practices and, I mean, like getting into their brains? Or do you kind of focus more on the physical manipulation and where the horse's feet are, where their hands and feet are?
Both, but like teaching it at the house there, cow horse stuff, I know about all the mistakes because I'm a master at making them myself. So it's easy for me to pick it up when somebody's not focused, not watching the cow, or looking down while making a rundown. It's easy for me to spot it because I'm so good at doing it myself, making those mistakes. So I will try to work on those riders. What creates a perfect stop is a perfect rundown. And what makes you accurate on a cow is watching the cow. And all the while, hopefully they're learning how it's supposed to feel, how they're supposed to go to the ground, how they're supposed to draw themselves through the turn. So, I mean, I'm working on the whole thing with them at the same time, but I work hard with them on, I guess, what they're thinking, where they're looking. It's doable. So many people, I think, get to thinking, I can't do this. I can't do this. They don't say it, but they
feel it. Yeah.
They feel it. You can see it. But so being effective with how you teach and what you teach, but still building confidence in that rider.
Yeah.
At the same time.
And when I was young, a guy packed me around. Cookie James packed me around a lot to the ropings. He was a real good roper. And people would come to him and ask him, hey, Cookie, I'm missing. Is my elbow this? Is my hand that? Am I swinging my loop behind my head? He says, look, you missed because you didn't put the loop in front of the hind feet. It's that simple. And I think about that in what we do now, breaking it down to making that simple instead of, hey, you need to pick your arm up here in your head. Like you're saying, or I think you're saying is, hey, you just got to go past the cow until he stops and goes the other way.
Exactly. It can get, especially with non-pros, it can get too technical.
Yes.
And then it becomes overwhelming. Then they start picking and catching their horse, start doing training things that don't even
relate.
They're over their head with it, doesn't relate, causing more problems.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite thing to say is you got to want to be there. You've heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
You got to want to be there. Get there. Not crazy, but get there.
You got to get there.
First thing we got to do before we do anything else is we got to get there to where we can do something else.
Yep.
So
and the age-old deal when you have people, especially working the cow, they'll say, well, was my horse's rib here? Was I there? What went wrong? The cow didn't honor me. It's very simple. If the cow went in front of you, you weren't far enough forward.
exactly.
If the cow went behind you, you were too far forward. So just getting people to
be accurate
on where you just weren't there if it didn't work.
Yeah.
So if you knocked the barrel over, you were too close. If you ran into the fence, you went too far. I mean, talk about how those two things, the barrel race and the cow work. How do you make that simple and get people to not overcomplicate it? Because that's what they do, the non-pros.
Yeah.
They're constantly wanting they're wanting you to tell them this little gimmick that makes it all work out.
Yeah.
If I just lift my elbow, my rope will go on the head. No, just put the loop on the horns. Same thing with the barrel. If your time's too long, you're going too slow or out around the barrel too far, right?
Exactly. Straight in, straight across, square the finish.
Yep. You're not on the tracks if it's not working.
Yeah.
You remember when you won the limited open at Fresno Futurity, roughly in 89, 90, somewhere in there? The reason I remember is because I was putting the cattle out. And at that time, the non-pro and the open were together. And I had a list on there, and it would say if they were non-pro or open, and the cow guy can kind of kick the cows out if they're a little too tough. We had it set up. And I knew you at that time, and I liked you for whatever reason. I don't know what. But this cow come in, and you could tell he's a little tough. I look on there, open rider, Ron Ralls, he can handle it, send it out, and you just kill the fence work and win the limited open. How much has it changed from those times when the non-pro and the open were showing together, and how much of a win was that for you?
Was that a bay horse?
I think, yes.
That horse, I think he marked a 224 in the prelims and a 26 in the finals, I think.
Yes.
It was a huge win because that horse had been culled a couple of times in his 2-year-old year by other trainers.
Yep.
And I got him, and he was kind of numb and all the stuff that I could see why they didn't like him.
Yep.
But it was one of them situations. If I want to go to the futurity, this one's got to work. So I just camped on him, and not that I can train one better than whoever had him, because I can't. But I just camped on him and spent the time, and eventually the light came on for him, and he made me look good. Mm-hmm. But it was, for me, it was huge.
And kind of climbed you. If I remember, I made you win the limited, but it climbed you way up in the open.
Yes.
Yep, and made a pretty big check. And just being around you then, it felt like it kind of really helped. You're beating your head against the wall, and then here comes a good one.
That's what I was talking about earlier. You get just enough. It spurs you on, keep doing it. Don't give up,
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the greatest things, like when I grew up, my dad said, and this is getting to the culture in the cow horse, what people win isn't really that important. It's who they are. Who will get in the trenches with you when things get tough. And I always felt like you might be the reason I had to get in the trenches, because you might have picked a fight, but if I got in one, I knew you'd be there and help.
You got that right.
So what do you think of, what did you like about the cow horse culture when you started out? What did you see that was enticing to you?
Making better horses. Since I was a little kid, that's all I wanted to do is ride better horses. But when I was first starting and very naive and uninformed, I saw it as an opportunity. I could make a lot of money doing this, and that didn't work out that good. but just the whole picture, you know. It wasn't never about trying to be famous, or it was always about better horses for me.
And how come the cow horse versus you're physically enough talented to rodeo or cut or rein, just because you wound up at Monty's and that's where he sent you?
That's where he wanted me to be. I thought about rodeoing when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
The horses that we grew up riding, like we raised horses, but you didn't start them until they were 4 years old, because that country is so rough. You rode a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old as hard as you had to ride them there, they'd be done when they're 4 or 5. They'd be crippled.
Yep.
So they were virtually untouched at 4. We laid them down and cut them, trimmed their feet, turned them back out, cut them as yearlings, turned them back out, got them in when they were 4. So they were raw broncs. I mean, they were not good bred horses like we ride.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some experience riding bucking horses that way. And I always thought, at the time, I thought, you know, it'd be go to the rodeo deal, ride broncs.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I ended up getting married too young, needed to make money. The rodeo deal was out of the question, so that never happened.
Mm.
So, and I'm glad it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't be talking to you guys right now.
No, you'd be famous.
Well, you still made your plenty appearances at the NFR. I mean, for folks that do know, I mean, most of these people listening are going to know you, but a lot of years you can watch Ron leading Slick by Design down the gate there in Las Vegas, Thomas and Mack, right? And this year we had Cody, your nephew.
Cody.
Ended up winning the average out there in the team roping.
Average and second in the world.
Pretty phenomenal.
Yep, that was fun.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Shout out Cody Snow.
Yeah, he did good. He's, I think this is his 4th year there. And you can see I'm not going to say improvement in his roping. He's always roped really good. But I can see he's making better choices under pressure.
Better decisions.
Yep, and he's got it together mentally, and it was so much fun to see him go there and be so good.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So this year, I'm glad I wasn't leading Slick down the alley, because when the years I did that, you don't see any rodeo.
Oh, really?
No. So it was fun to be there for Cody this year
and watch.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're getting ready for the world's greatest coming up in February, right? Biggest, best horse show of the world.
Yep.
You've won it twice on different horses. First guy to win it twice on different horses. What, Corey matched you on that deal?
Yeah.
So my book, that always is kind of puts you at the top of that board, even though I'm sitting here with Russell Dilday, who won it 3 times.
I know. He's always got to outdo everybody.
I'm telling you.
So
only because he let me.
See, he's
There
famous,
I
rich
know
and
he's so
famous.
that's probably Trump calling.
Yep, Trump
somebody.
calling.
So irritating, you know, when you think you got something on everybody, and then he has to.
So talk to us a little bit about Cowgirls Are Smart, 2003 World's Greatest Horseman Champion.
Well, when I was still in California, Jim Babcock he'd always wanted me to come out here and kind of go to work for him, but we made a compromise, and I came out here, and he said if I'd come pick a horse to take it home and ride it. So they showed me 2 horses. They were just started 2-year-olds. They showed me 2 of them. So I picked Cowgirl, and I took her home and rode her and trained her, and she hurt a suspensory, so I was off of her for a while. Anyway, long and the short of it is, I did not get anything done on her at the futurity. But I won some stuff on her, I think, in her Derby years. I think she was 6 when she won that. So I put her in the bridle, and that was my goal, to go there. She was a really talented, really smart mare, a little bit on the fractious side mentally.
Really?
But she was very talented and
So y'all fit together well there. Y'all had a lot in common, I take
Yeah.
it.
So, anyways, we went there, and that horse won that thing. And I think she picked up the slack for me a lot. When I made a little bit of a mistake, she was there. You know, I never say I won that thing. I say that horse won. You know, I was just riding her.
Yep.
But she was, she had a huge heart. and if there was a little bit of a mistake, she would grab more ground and get where she needed to. And I think that Todd Bergen and I were tied in the finals when the fence work come along, I guess. I think we were tied. And he was ahead of me. He went before I did down the fence. And I think he's riding Nick in the Bud, wasn't he?
I think that's right. Yes.
And he had some problems down the fence in the finals there and opened the door for me.
Yep.
And Cowgirl showed me well down the fence. And I think I said in that interview, had Todd not had a problem down the fence, it would have put an extreme, I mean, there's always pressure no matter what.
Right.
But if he would have had a big run down the fence, the pressure would have been big on me. But his bad luck, he had some problems down the fence, and it just opened the door, and she stepped in there and did her job, and it was great.
He had a forced crossover in the fence work.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, he crossed path on the cow, and he just kind of covered it up, but it could mark, and then you came and had a phenomenal run. And that was, mind you, not on the best ground in the world.
No.
It was a thin covering on packed clay, and man, you come smoking down that fence and just wrapped it all up, and the place went crazy. That was
fun with all them. That was a ranch rodeo finals or something, and that was a full house.
Was that in Amarillo?
Yeah.
Yes.
Amarillo. It was.
Them people
fun.
got into it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were hanging over the top of the fence, wanting to give you high fives, and it was fun. That was fun. Screaming.
Now,
Such a packed
was
house.
it there in 04 also?
Yes.
It was there 2 years, yeah.
So you just knocked them out with the big crowd twice in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I was very blessed to be able to do that.
Right. And we had that was the same year as World's Richest, right?
I think that was a year or so after, because I didn't even know that World's Richest. I didn't even know about that deal. And Patty and I went out to the horse show, I think at Paso, and you guys were talking about this deal.
Yep.
And I didn't even know what it was. And then we talked about it on the way home. But that's the second time there in Amarillo I was riding a Chicken Time.
Right.
What with the World's Richest, Ryan, what a dominant performance that was. Because the World's Richest, for anybody that doesn't know, it was a one shot, no finals.
One go.
It's one go. And I mean, he comes in there and just crucifies us in the herd work. I mean, the herd work was so head and shoulders above everything else. And then he just stayed out there in the lead. Just stayed there. Had the run-in, and I remember $100,000. I mean, there was nothing that paid at that time in the bridle.
No.
Nothing. It's
Nothing
100,000.
since. Not like that.
Not like that. It's the highest earning guy on a bridle horse in one show in history so far. I hope it pays 100 again someday.
I do too.
But man, it was some kind of fun. And that crowd, there was 30 horses. It was a really small stadium, so it was a good setting.
Intense.
Yep.
Where
and
did they have that?
It was at
Save
Mart Center.
Save Mart Center in
in
Fresno.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it was, and he came out early, and
I think I was third. I think we did the rein work and turned right around and called for the cow, right? I know that we did.
yeah.
And I think I was second or third to do the rein work.
Mm-hmm.
Early in the
Early. He came out early and just crushed everyone's dreams. Like, I'm in the back warming up,
Like,
and after
what's
he goes,
second
the
pay?
whole warm 17,000.
Well,
100. It's 100. So I'm riding around. Everybody's just like, oh. I mean, no one could reach him.
right.
That was just, it was numerically impossible. After he went, it's all second place. So we're trotting around the whole warm-up pin. He's deflated everyone in the warm-up pin, and they're just moping around, and I'm riding around pretty soon. I'm like, hey, you guys, it's still 17,000. Like, there's no bridal class that pays
No,
$5 at the time. And everybody kind of, winds up and just go. The show, even after him Plus, he's raised the level of competition. He's 220 this and 220 that back when those are uncommon. Everyone went in there and didn't want to stink.
Right.
So the show was just all out fighting for second place, 17,000, even after he had walked away with everything, 100,000. But he just raised the level so much. That was one of the funnest. It's one of the only shows I've bought the entire tape on.
It was unbelievable that to be able to, and I think what made that so exciting is there's no finals, there's no second chance. You got to go in there and try to be on the money with everything you've got. One go, no second chances, no squeaking into the finals. And that's what I think made it so. And it's just there. I've never experienced anything like that since.
Oh, and just a mere $83,000 spread between first and second.
Right.
Just a little. And it was one of those shows where he was so far ahead of everyone. There's no one saying, well, you know, his first turn wasn't that good, or he really wasn't that good out there. No one. There's no question. The gap was so far. There was not even a whisper of anyone being close to
About
what he
an
did.
$83,000 gap, sounds like.
No, yeah, hey, $83,000 and no one's even complaining.
All right.
John Rozier, I think it was John, he said, why do you even come out here? But honestly, I had a great horse.
Great one.
I had a great horse, and that horse was a show horse. When I say he was a show horse, he wouldn't change leads for me. Remember that practice pen up there was kind of uneven? Yes. We're loping around. Remember, it's kind of dark?
Kind of.
We're loping around up there in the dark, and I think, well, I just checked this lead change out a little bit. He don't change leads. And I'm going, oh, dang. Normally, I would panic over something like that, and I said, just wait a minute now. I said, no big deal. We just try it again. Well, he didn't change again. I said, well, so I just thinking, well, can't really do anything about this, so I just pet him on the neck like he did everything perfect. Swear to you. But when you rode that horse in the show pen, I thought he was going to run off with me. When I rode in there, I showed him at the World's Greatest the year before, or whatever it was. But when I rode him, remember that you went down that alley and panels down
760 foot.
And then you went in there and you had to turn left and trot to the center. Well, when I went in there, that horse he wasn't on the muscle, but you could just feel his body swell up underneath me. And I felt this energy, but he wasn't doing anything about it. And I thought, I never felt him be that way before. And I thought, oh my God, I don't know what he's going to do. Because he just didn't change leads.
Right.
But he wasn't jigging or nothing, but you could just feel him swell up. And I went in there, I think it was a left-hand departure, and I got started around there, and his body softened, and I knew I had
knew
my
you
horse.
had him.
I knew he was going to be there for me, but that was all that horse, I'm telling you. And I always say that horse won that.
Hands.
Just like he won the World's Greatest. I just happened to be sitting on him. That is a show horse, as much a show horse as anybody could ever hope to get their leg over.
And at that time, like me and Chris had talked other times about how back then you didn't have to have all three events. You needed a really good event, and then you needed to be able to get through two events or be kind of good in one. At that time, you could come with a horse that wasn't huge in all three, but that horse came there and was huge in all three. One of the first horses I remember that just didn't have a hole, didn't have a weak event, and it was awe-inspiring.
He was a phenomenal athlete and a phenomenal mind. I got him, I think it was a little over 3 months. Randy Butler called me after Cowgirl had been there and said, hey, would you be interested in showing a chicken time at the World's Greatest? And I said, well, I said, I'd like to come and ride him, because they reined on that horse a little when he was a 3. He made the finals at the reining fraternity.
Oh, really? I didn't know that about him.
With 3 or 4 months reining training. Most of his training was cutting. And I think Craig Johnson rode him for, I think it was Craig rode him 3 or 4 months, took him to the reining fraternity. I think he was, ended up 7th or something like that.
Oh, geez.
I wouldn't swear to it, but, and he hadn't reined in all those years. He'd done nothing but cut. And I think I got him a little bit 3.5 months before that's back when it was in June.
Mm-hmm.
And I got him like, I think 3.5 months before.
And Randy did all the rest of the riding on him, right?
Randy did a cutting on him.
Yeah.
They just cut on him.
Sure.
So I went and rode him, and it felt like the reining would be there. I mean, I knew he knew how to do it, but, you know, after you cut on him for all them years, what's it going to be? So I rode him around there for about 30 minutes, and I said I would like to try it. So this is what a great horse that horse is. He'd never been roped on, never been in the box, never been down the fence, ever. At the World's Greatest on him, his run down the fence was his 5th run down the fence.
Wow.
Well, how much are you going to do in 3.5 months and not cripple the horse? That's what a phenomenal.
That's incredible.
That's what a kind of horse he is. I give it, like I said, I happened to be the lucky guy that got to ride him. I'd like to say I won that, but I didn't win nothing. He did.
Well, you could have messed it up.
I don't think that horse would let me.
Pull the bridle out of your hands. No, Ron.
Yeah, he's great. He's a great one.
Are there any other horses that you need to mention that, I mean, not necessarily famous ones, not necessarily ones you even won on, but just horses that really, that gave something to you that, like I say, maybe not everybody knows about?
The little black mare I told you I won a timed event rein work, that horse taught me a whole lot.
Right.
And I quit cow horsing her and cut on her, and she did good in the cutting, but again, I'm still trying to learn how to show a horse. But that horse gave me a lot because she did things right. I didn't know how to show her, and I didn't do her justice at all, ever. There's been several horses, I don't know. Remember Captain Nice?
Mm-hmm.
That is the most hard luck horse I think ever had. I think he was 2nd at the pre-fraternity up in Oregon. Brought him home. He got sick, almost died. I got to ride him one time before. That's when it was in Fresno. Didn't get by my cow going down the fence. All I had to do was just get by that cow and make the finals. That horse had lot of bad luck. Horseshoer hot nailed him a couple of times before major events. But that horse to me too was a phenomenal horse. Very hard to train, very steady, but
there again, I've noticed in the trend, these things have a lot in common with you. A little fractious minded.
Was, I'm afraid. I've since retired from all that. I refuse to be a quitter. Another horse that really helped me, and I enjoyed training him and getting done what I was able to get done was Solano Cat. Can't get it done on him anymore. I think went down too many different roads while he was gone, and can't make it fit anymore. But I still love that horse. He was a great horse.
Yep, you're darn right. Got any other advice for some kids? I mean, as far as dealing with customers and some of the things that you went through, because we've all, like I say, we've all lost customers, we've all gained customers from another trainer. I mean, how do you deal with some of that?
I think the easiest way to deal with customers, I think you need to try. We've all had some undesirable customers. There are a few of them out there. There are also a lot of really, really good customers. I think just like a happy horse is going to work better for you, I think if you can treat your customers fair and honest and keep them happy and keep them on your team. And the thing I try to think about is how would I want to be treated if I was an owner? You know, I think for telling young people or whatever, just be straight up. Be straight up. Now, no matter how much it hurts, no matter if you made a mistake, be straight up about it. You might lose a customer over it, but you're gonna keep your integrity intact.
Good words of advice right there.
Yeah.
The one thing when I check out of here, I mean, there's a lot of you guys won a whole lot more than I've won, and I'm obviously getting at the end of it. But if I can check out with my integrity intact, I did my job. That's what's important to me.
You're darn right.
Mm-hmm. And what else is there? All the other stuff goes away.
It all goes away.
It's the person. You want to be a person that people like. Not the belt buckles and stuff that all fades. We're talking about horses that I can really remember that probably 80% of the guys out there showing now don't remember.
Exactly.
Didn't even know.
But they remember the person.
But they remember
good,
you.
bad,
yes.
or indifferent.
Yep. That's what lasts.
So that's my advice to young people trying to get in this industry and train horses and do the deal. Keep your integrity intact. If you keep your integrity intact, you're going to have happy customers. You're going to be straightforward, and the rest takes care of itself. Mm-hmm. And the ones that don't stick with you, you probably didn't need them anyway.
That's right. What was the point?
So
might as well go. Might as well be around people you like.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to episode 1 of Cowhorse Full Contact. Please like our Facebook page and follow us on Instagram to stay tuned for episode 2, where Chris and Russell will be interviewing Sam Rose.